Sandra Bullock. You know her, you'll love her. She's America's sweetheart, right? An Oscar-winning superstar who has been charming us for decades. But behind that incredible career is a private life that's been marked by some really profound heartbreak, terrifying trauma, and ultimately a story of unbelievable resilience. So let's really get into the story behind the superstar. First off, we've got to remember the sheer scale of her success. Sandra Bullock is, a titan in Hollywood. From huge blockbusters like Speed and Gravity to that Academy Award she won for The Blind Side, her professional life has just been one massive hit after another. She is, by pretty much every account, completely beloved. While her career was just racking up awards, her personal life, that was a totally different picture. It's that classic, almost tragic Hollywood paradox. Huge public success, but it's shadowed by all this private turmoil. So her public love life really kicked off with two of Hollywood's biggest leading men. And with them came this intense pressure of what it's like to date in the spotlight. And what's so fascinating is how different these two relationships were. With Matthew McConaughey, it was this secret 2-year thing that started on the set of A Time to Kill back in '96. And Bullock was totally captivated. She once said, "There's nobody like him." Then you have Ryan Gosling. Yeah, there was a pretty big 16-year age gap, but he would later call her one of his greatest girlfriends. You can tell they really kept things under wraps, because years later, even McConaughey himself was a little coy about it. He kind of hinted at crushes, but really stressed that they kept it professional. It just suggests there was this complicated dynamic that they very intentionally kept away from the public eye. With Gosling, though, the reason for their breakup was crystal clear. He pointed the finger directly at the industry itself, calling show business the bad guy. And that's a really powerful statement, you know? It's about how that constant spotlight can literally just suffocate a relationship before it even gets a chance to grow. But that whole pattern of keeping things private, well, that was all about to change in a huge, dramatic way. Bullock's next relationship was a very public marriage, one that would end in a spectacularly public and painful scandal that honestly shocked everybody. When you just lay out the timeline, it is absolutely devastating. 2005, she marries Jesse James. By early 2010, they are right on the verge of adopting their son Louis, a dream come true. But just 1 month later, a massive cheating scandal just erupts in the media. And by April, she's finalizing that adoption all by herself. In just a matter of weeks, her entire world was turned completely upside down. And the betrayal was just made so much worse by a complete lack of remorse. This quote from Jesse James himself, it's just so telling. There was no real apology. It was just this defiant excuse that completely dismissed the pain he caused. And the consequences of that, they were permanent. James later admitted he lost all contact with the son that he was supposed to raise with Sandra. She made a clean break, protecting herself and her new child from all that fallout. And because of his actions, he lost his son. But, after all of that darkness, something truly incredible happened. Following that public spectacle of her divorce, Sandra found what she would later call the true love of her life, and she found it completely away from the cameras. His name was Bryan Randall, and the way they met is actually kind of sweet. She hired him as a photographer for her son Louis' birthday in 2015. And that one professional meeting sparked an 8-year romance. It was deep, it was private, it was basically everything her previous public relationships were not. And you can just hear the joy in her own words. This wasn't just some fling, this was a family. She didn't just find a partner in Bryan, she found someone to build a real life with, blending their families and creating something that she called the best thing ever. But then, in just the cruelest possible twist, their story came to an absolutely heartbreaking end. In August of 2023, Bryan passed away after a 3-year battle with ALS, and it was a fight they had kept entirely private. So after finding the love of her life, she had to lose him to this cruel, relentless disease. So while she's navigating this profound, private grief, there was another trauma from her past that was still casting a really long shadow, one that had violated her safety in the most terrifying way you can imagine. Back in 2014, an intruder broke into her home, and in this chilling twist of fate, it happened to be a rare night when her son Louis wasn't there. She actually believes that if he had been home, her first instinct would have been to run to his room, not to hide, and that decision could have ended tragically for both of them. Let's just walk through what happened, because it is absolutely terrifying. An intruder is inside her house. She sees him walk right past her bedroom door. And with just incredible presence of mind, she locks herself in her closet and immediately calls 911. Her quick thinking in a moment of pure terror is just astonishing. And then you get this moment. This is from the actual 911 call. While she's on the phone with the dispatcher, she whispers these terrifying words. The intruder wasn't just wandering around the house, he was actively trying to get into the very room where she was hiding. It's the stuff of nightmares. So, after the public humiliation, the profound loss, and that terrifying home invasion, how does a person even begin to heal from all that? And this brings us to the final and I think the most powerful chapter of her story, finding resilience inside herself. For her, the path to healing was a very deliberate one. She was diagnosed with PTSD, and she started EMDR therapy. It's a technique that helps your brain reprocess traumatic memories to really work through what happened. And you know what motivated her? The fear of passing her own trauma and her own fear onto her kids. She was determined to break that cycle and to learn that being vulnerable isn't a weakness, it's actually a source of strength. So, when you step back and look at all these different pieces, the breakups, the betrayal, the loss, the terror, it all kind of builds to one central question, right? What is the ultimate takeaway from this incredible journey? And in the end, the answer really came from a lesson her mother taught her a long, long time ago: self-reliance. It's not about shutting people out, it's about building the internal tools you need for emotional survival. It's about finding that perfect balance, being open to love and connection, but knowing deep down in your core that you have the strength to stand on your own. And really, in the end, that might just be the most Oscar-worthy love story of all.